Narcissists know they can't abuse everyone, so they pick their victims very carefully. In this video, we will uncover the 5 ways in which they select their targets. The last way is usually the most common one. Number 1. Empathy and compassion. One of the most shocking and terrifying tactics used by narcissists to select their targets is their uncanny ability to detect and exploit individuals who possess high levels of empathy and compassion. These unsuspecting souls, with their kind hearts and genuine concern for others, unwittingly become prey for these emotional predators. Narcissists are like emotional vampires, thirsting for the nourishment that comes from draining the empathy and compassion of those around them. They know that empathetic people are the perfect targets because they are more prone to selflessly give and forgive, allowing the narcissist to manipulate and control them at will. These heartless individuals will use their charm and charisma to gain the trust of their chosen victim. They play the role of a wounded soul, seeking solace and understanding, appealing directly to the empathetic person's desire to help and heal. Little do their victims know that this is just an act, a carefully crafted facade designed to exploit their goodwill. Once the narcissist has successfully zeroed in on their target, they begin their insidious manipulation tactics. They prey on the empath's inherent need to fix and save, making them feel responsible for the narcissist's happiness and well-being. They guilt-trip them into bending over backwards to fulfill their every desire and whim, all while draining them emotionally, mentally, and even financially. It's a sick and twisted game, where the narcissist revels in the power and control they have over their unsuspecting victim. They exploit the empath's natural inclination to see the good in people, even when confronted with overwhelming evidence of their toxicity. They gaslight and invalidate their feelings, making them doubt their own perceptions and keeping them trapped in a web of confusion and self-doubt. The empath becomes trapped in a vicious cycle, desperately trying to please the narcissist and win their approval, only to be met with constant criticism and belittlement. Their self-worth is chipped away bit by bit, as the narcissist feeds off their emotional turmoil. Number 2. Low self-esteem. Narcissists also select their targets by preying on individuals with low self-esteem. They possess a radar that can detect vulnerability from miles away. They know that those struggling with low self-worth are prime candidates for their toxic games of manipulation and control. Narcissists exploit the insecurities of their victims like a puppeteer pulling the strings. They understand that individuals with low self-esteem are more likely to tolerate mistreatment and accept blame for the narcissist's wrongdoings. They use these vulnerabilities as a powerful weapon, gradually eroding their victim's self-worth to the point where they feel utterly powerless and dependent on the narcissist. At first, the narcissist may appear as a savior, boosting the target's fragile self-esteem through excessive admiration and flattery. They make their victims believe that they are the center of their universe, showering them with attention and affection. But this is nothing more than a calculated charade, a disguise to manipulate their victim into becoming emotionally dependent on them. As the relationship progresses, the narcissist gradually chips away at their target's self-esteem, exploiting their insecurities with degrading comments, belittlement, and constant comparison to others. They warp reality and manipulate their victim's perception of themselves, making them believe that they are unworthy, incompetent, and deserving of mistreatment. This constant assault on their self-worth leaves the target feeling trapped, believing there is no escape from the narcissist's torment. The narcissist gains a sick pleasure from breaking down and controlling their target, while the victim becomes trapped in a vicious cycle of self-blame and desperation for validation. The narcissist thrives on the power imbalance, exploiting their victim's low self-esteem to maintain control over the relationship. Number 3. Desire for approval and validation. One of the most cunning ways narcissists cast their net is by preying on individuals who have a deep desire for approval and validation. Narcissists possess an innate understanding of human psychology. They know that people desire to feel accepted, loved, and valued by others. They use this knowledge to manipulate and control their chosen targets. The narcissist strategically becomes the primary source of validation and approval in their victim's life. They carefully mold themselves into someone who fulfills their target's longing for recognition and acceptance. This calculated charade sets the stage for manipulation, as the narcissist begins to dictate the terms and conditions in which they will dole out their coveted approval. At first, the victim is enthralled by this overwhelming surge of affirmation. They feel special, desired, and like they have finally found someone who truly appreciates them. But little do they know that this is all an elaborate game, a facade expertly constructed by the narcissist to gain control over their emotions and actions. As the relationship progresses, the narcissist tightens their grip on the target's desire for approval and validation. They use it as a powerful tool to manipulate and coerce them into complying with their demands. They make their victims believe that their worth is contingent upon the narcissist's approval, effectively trapping them in a never-ending cycle of seeking validation from an unattainable source. The victim becomes reliant on the narcissist for their self-esteem and self-worth, constantly seeking their validation and approval while sacrificing their own needs and values in the process. They become conditioned to believe that they are only worthy of love and acceptance when they conform to the whims and desires of the narcissist. This pattern subjects the victim to a constant state of emotional manipulation and control, with their own sense of self-worth hinging upon the approval of someone who is incapable of true empathy or genuine validation. Their lopsided relationship becomes one where they constantly strive for unattainable perfection in a desperate attempt to win the favor of the narcissist. Number 4. Past trauma or codependency. Narcissists are like bloodhounds that can sniff out individuals with past trauma or codependency issues. They have an incredible ability to target those who have experienced traumatic events or have deeply rooted codependent tendencies. It's these vulnerable individuals who become prime targets for their insidious manipulation and control. Narcissists recognize and exploit the wounds of their victims because they know that those carrying the weight of past trauma or codependency are more susceptible to seeking validation and security outside of themselves. They see an opportunity to fill a void and assert their power over someone who is desperate for comfort, stability, and validation in their lives. The narcissist will play different roles according to their victim's specific needs. If you have experienced trauma, they may present themselves as a protector, promising to shield you from harm and offering the comfort you desperately crave. If you struggle with codependent tendencies, they will feed off your need to please others and act as a caretaker or rescue provider. But behind their facade of false love and concern lies a calculated plan. Narcissists prey on individuals with past trauma or codependency issues because they know that these wounds leave them desperate for external validation and prone to accepting mistreatment. They exploit their victim's fears, insecurities, and desires to maintain control over the relationship. The narcissist systematically erodes their victim's boundaries and sense of self, slowly cutting off their independence and trapping them in a cycle of dependence. They manipulate their fears and insecurities, making them believe that they are incapable of surviving without the narcissist's presence in their lives. They reinforce the belief that they are the only ones who can provide the love and support necessary for them to heal and overcome their past trauma or codependency. It's a sick and twisted game of power and control, as the narcissist thrives on the emotional turmoil they create within their victims. They drain them emotionally, mentally, and even financially, causing further damage to their already fragile state. Number 5. People-pleasing nature. The biggest way in which narcissists select their targets is by preying on individuals with a people-pleasing nature. These manipulators have an uncanny ability to detect those who prioritize the needs and desires of others above their own. They recognize that people-pleasers are more likely to sacrifice their own well-being in order to make others happy, making them prime candidates for manipulation and control. Narcissists exploit the kindness and desire to please, twisting it into a weapon of control. The people-pleasers become trapped in a cycle of validation seeking, constantly striving to meet the narcissist's ever-changing whims and demands. They go above and beyond to ensure the narcissist's happiness, often neglecting their own needs and desires in the process. This self-sacrifice becomes the foundation on which the narcissist builds their power and control over their victim. Narcissists are master manipulators, expertly taking advantage of the fear of disappointing others that plagues people-pleasers. They know that saying no or setting boundaries is incredibly difficult for these individuals, so they exploit this vulnerability by pushing and testing those boundaries to their limit. They may guilt trip or gaslight their victims into complying with their wishes, using emotional manipulation to maintain control. It's important for people pleasers to recognize that their compassionate nature should not be weaponized against them. Being kind and considerate is a beautiful quality to have, but when it becomes a detriment to your own well-being and sense of self-worth, it's crucial to set boundaries and prioritize your own needs. Breaking free from the grip of a narcissist requires building inner strength and self-confidence. Saying no is a powerful act of self-care and self-respect. Surround yourself with a supportive network of friends and loved ones who appreciate your kindness but also encourage you to set healthy boundaries. Seek therapy or support groups where you can learn effective communication skills, assertiveness training, and gain insight into the patterns of manipulation. If you are a victim of narcissistic abuse and need immediate help, see the link in the description. Like and subscribe for more tips on how to survive narcissism. Next, we recommend the video on the best ways to not let narcissists cross your boundaries.